Hey guys, this is Dr. McFarland, and in this video I'm going to talk about going digital in 2019. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. If it's your first time here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below, and be sure to click on the bell icon so you'll be notified every time I release new content. So the topic of this video is all about going digital in 2019. And what I mean by that is maybe you have used an analog board for most of your music career. You've bought and sold different overdrive pedals and delay pedals, reverb, all kinds of different stuff. Maybe you've even owned a few different tube amps. But I'm going to propose to you today that now is the best time to get into digital. I'm going to tell you a few reasons why. So over the years, I have had many different iterations of analog pedal boards. Anywhere from like really big to really small, and all kinds of different variations of overdrives and delays and reverbs. And what I found myself doing was always swapping things in and out, always chasing for that sound, and probably spending way more money than I probably should have. And I was always very fickle on what I thought I needed. My needs and my wants really weren't matching up that well. So fast forward to 2017 and on into 2018, I actually decided to go all digital, and I've pretty much never looked back. I only own a handful of analog overdrives and a few other pedals just because I haven't been able to sell them yet. But as soon as I sell them, I think they're going to be gone. So I'm not going to really miss my analog days. And here's a few reasons why. Digital boards such as the Helix, the Headrush, the Axe Effects, and a lot of other products like it offer you a lot more flexibility in routing and the kind of tonal options that you have available without having to spend a lot of money. So if you look at your normal pedal board, let's say you have the big three Strymon pedals. Well, each of those at least go for $450, maybe $500. Whether you get them on the used market or the brand new market. And let's say you go for a few boutique overdrive pedals, maybe a few from Wampler, or maybe Keeley or Full Tone. I mean, you name the company, you can probably imagine all the different plethora of different overdrive pedals that are out there. Well, each one of those is going to cost you anywhere from $100, maybe to $200, $250, sometimes $300 just for one overdrive pedal. And that can get pretty expensive once you start adding up all the drives you have on your board, plus all the Strymon stuff and maybe Eventide H9s. And before you know it, you got yourself a $3,000 board, and you're like, whoa, I actually spent all that money on this board? And what's going to happen over time is you can get kind of bored with it. You're going to want to swap things in and out. And then when you sell those pedals, you're probably going to lose money on the deal. You know, it's just not a good cycle to be in. So what digital does for you is it provides all those different overdrive, delay, reverb, modulation sounds all in one box. And it allows you to experiment with different sounds so you don't have to technically swap things in and out. You can just do it all in the virtual world, and then that helps you kind of train your ear, and you can find out what you like and what you don't like about certain sounds. And then if you want to go analog after that, well, you have a better idea of which way to go without having to spend tons of money on trying out different pedals. All right, so the second thing that going digital does for you is you don't have to use a power supply to power all these different types of pedals, when all you gotta do typically is just plug it in, either your Headrush or your Helix, and the one power supply, which is usually a IEC cable, you just plug it in, it all turns on. You can start by adding amps, effects, any combination of those in any order that you want, and it's very, very quick and simple. And that leads me on to routing. What digital does for you in your signal flow is it allows you to experiment with the order of effects without having to patch cables in and out, and it can get really messy and very time consuming very, very fast. And what digital does for your routing is, let's say you wanted to experiment with like an overdrive and distortion, and you wanted to swap the order of those and kind of experiment on what that would sound like. Well, you can do that very easily in any number of units and be like, okay, I can kind of hear how that sounds, and I kind of like that, or I don't like that, and whatever else. So, and the same thing goes with different types of delays or reverbs. A lot of times with analog pedals, you kind of have to set it the one way and then just kind of forget it for the rest of the gig, unless you just want to keep bending over and tweaking knobs all night, which you can totally do. But you, most of the time with the digital board, you can have one reverb, one overdrive, one delay, and get many different parameter changes, whether you're building rigs or you're building presets or you're building snapshots. All that digital power allows you to save different iterations of that same effect. In this rig, I'm going to have one overdrive pedal, maybe set the low gain. And then the next rig, I'm going to have the same overdrive, set a bit higher gain. And then in the last rig, I'm going to have the same overdrive set to the highest gain that it can. And that way you're getting 3 separate rigs or presets with a lot of different variation in gain and tone. And you didn't have to buy 3 separate overdrive pedals just to make that happen. You can do it all in the digital world. And I think lastly for me, it's just all about convenience. I got to where I was always worried about my analog pedals, and maybe a cable gets loose and then your whole signal goes out. And it's just not a fun day on the parade when you have to show up to a gig and wonder, okay, is my pedal board going to work tonight? You try to go through and you program changes, and you might check all the cables and whatnot, and you step on a preset. Maybe you're using like a loop switcher or something, and you step on a switch and your sound goes dead, and you're like, okay, there's got to be maybe a loose power cable, maybe a loose patch cable somewhere that I missed. I think with digital, you don't really have those issues. Now, there are a few downfalls to digital that you might want to consider as well. Since primarily you're dealing with an all-in-one unit, well, if that unit goes bad, or maybe the brain inside the unit just shuts down and says, nope, I'm not going to turn on today, well, all your effects and amps are pretty much dead. So that's the only downfall I can see by going all digital. But most companies do have a very good return policy. Or if something does break, they can probably send you out a new unit and just return the old one, and it's really not a big deal. So, and another thing that might be bad about digital, but I think for most people it would be a good thing, is there's so many different possibilities in the digital world that you can get option overload, and you just can't decide on what to choose. It's like, well, I got all these different amplifiers and all these different effects pedals. You might spend too much time tweaking and routing things around versus just playing. And that's where you really have to find yourself in your sound and be like, all right, I'm going to have a set time to where I can just experiment, but outside of that time, I'm just going to set up some presets and just play. Whether you're preparing for a gig, or you have a studio session coming up and you need certain sounds for the song, dive in deep and create those sounds how you need them to. But once you're done, don't go tweaking around just because you can. Find a sound that works for that song, and then just practice your parts and make sure you're more prepared for the studio or the stage. So that concludes this video. Let me know down in the comments what you think about going digital in 2019. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And once again, be sure to subscribe to my channel. There's a lot more cool content coming your way. And also be sure to check out drmcfarlandstudios.com. And there's a few different ways to gain access to deeper levels of learning, whether you want to learn about music theory, or you want to learn more about the headrush unit, or just digital units in general. Be sure to hop over there and look around. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to send me an email or leave a comment on any one of my videos. or also message me on Instagram at Dr. McFarland. Okay? So I will see you in the next video. Keep rocking.